Hello YouTube, thanks for joining me. If you search this out, you're probably looking because of Camaro top issues. Not really having a problem with the top, other than the same problem that a lot of people have where it rubs a little bit because it's the 2012 and they did an update on the convertible top and after 2012 to make it fit a little bit better. What I'm trying to address here is a rattle. On the overhead piece, there's an overhead piece right above you where the release handle is, a plastic trim piece. And I've noticed, this is 2018, I'm talking to you in 2018, it's a 2012 Camaro. And right when I first bought it, about 2.5 years ago, I noticed that it rattled. It would just shake and rattle on the passenger side. And so I went in one time and I took it apart. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that procedure because I haven't found much online, especially any kind of how-to video. And there's just a couple little things that are kind of daunting, or might give you pause to do this, but it's a fairly simple project to do yourself. First of all, I'll show you what causes that rattle and show you how to get it apart. So over here is that trim piece from the inside of the car, and you can see these screw bosses. There are 4 of them, and then this hidden one. And so when if you try to do this yourself, when you go to take this down, this is the one that'll give you problems because you can't see it. And I'll show you a little bit about that and tell you how to get that out. It's a little nerve-wracking, but fairly simple. So I had this apart one time, and just as a real quick fix, like I said, about 2 years ago, I used some Gorilla Tape to hold this on. Basically, these had just popped off and the screws were loose in there, and so this was just rattling inside the car. So you can see this was the only one that's still okay. So this car is 6 years old. This is the only one that hasn't broken. All 3 of those other ones are broken. So it was held up here, and it was held on here underneath the trim piece for the handle. And so what I've done this time is I got JB Quick, so it's JB Weld, it's epoxy. Got to be careful with the type of epoxy you choose. Make sure it's safe for the plastics that we're using. This one said it was safe for plastic, so that's what I've gone ahead and tried to use. And then as for extra measure, after putting the epoxy on there, I also put these zip ties on there because they all snapped off with like a tab. So it would snap off, about half the plastic would be remaining, and then the boss itself would snap out of it. So it didn't snap off clean from the base. Like, it didn't snap off, down here at the base. It snapped, they all snapped crooked like this. Like, there's just a little bit of tension, and it popped them out. So I used some JB Weld, put it in there, and the zip ties to kind of hold it tight. That Gorilla Tape lasted for about 2 years before I started to notice the rattle again, and then that basically it had just pulled loose from the tape. The tape had gotten old, sitting out in the sunshine. It heats it up, melts the tape, and anyway, won't get too much into that. That's just how that happens. So what do you have to do? How do we get this thing off? It's a fairly straightforward procedure, but you have to do it. There's a process. So first of all, you can see where I've got the top just folded back. That's not too scary. There's this trim piece right here, and it mounts in this channel right here. There's a channel, and it's it's a little tacky. And then this trim piece mounts up in it. You can see the channel on the back side of the trim piece right there. Mounts in that channel. And then what happens is, over here, you have to remove this trim piece. This is actually what holds it in place. You have that channel that locks it down, and then this actually holds it in place. So this mounts up, and you'll see this from the bottom side. This is what you see from the bottom. And it mounts up under there and just mates up and holds the top in place. Now, when you take those Torx bits out, you'll be able to pull that channel off. But then you have to remove, on both sides, you have this little plastic clip right here. So you have to remove the Torx bits or Torx bolts on both sides as well to get that off. And then you'll be able to pop the corner off on either side, and the whole thing will roll back. And then what you're doing from there to get the trim piece out is you'll see 4 of these square indentions, and those are also T25 Torx holes, and there are 4 of those across. So you take those out, and then it'll be loose, and you'll think, oh great, I'm going to take it down. And you start pulling and tugging, and like, well, I want to come easy. Well, that's where you got to be careful now, because that's where this centerpiece right here, that's still bolted in place. So how do we get to that? Well, I'll take you inside the car real quick and show you. Not a whole lot of videos out there to describe how this is done. But this, if you have the convertible, you recognize this. This is the trim piece that goes underneath your grab handle right there on the back side. And you got to get this out. So how does that come out? Well, it's kind of counterintuitive. You can see the tabs right there and on the back side that hold it in place. And then you've got this. And this basically keeps that from rattling around. So the first time I tried to figure this out, I couldn't find any kind of helpful pictures or anything. And then I found somebody on, I think, Camaro 5 that wrote it out in the description and said they just pushed up in the center, right here in the center, just push up. And so I thought, okay, and I'll give it a go. And I pushed a little harder than I was comfortable with, and all of a sudden it popped. And the pop was scary because it popped up, and I'm like, oh, great, I broke it. I broke the tabs. But it didn't. It popped up, and then it fairly easily just slid right out. And nope, the tabs are not broken. Everything's in place. So you got to just push up right in the center with some fairly firm pressure to get that to pop loose on the inside. Basically, you're pushing against this foam. So that's what's giving you the resistance, is that foam. After we got that done, then I could take that last piece out, and basically now the next thing too is you do all that with basically the top down. You get most of that stuff done with the top down, so you can reach everything. But then you have to pop the top up so that these trim pieces there and there fold down like that, because when they're folded up, they actually hold the header panel across the top. They hold it in place. So if the top is down, you can't get that header trim piece out. So you have to get it up. You can see about how far it is up. You got to get it up this far, and then you'll be able to release it. And it almost falls right out. In fact, the only thing that holds it up is the handle. Mine was dangling. It was that easy once I got all the pieces out. So again, what I've done is got it out, and this is as I left it after I got that piece out. This is how it's still sitting, waiting for that epoxy. It's supposed to take like 5 minutes to set up, and then, I don't know, like a half an hour to an hour before it's fully cured. And then I'm going to basically do the reverse of the installation. I will put that back in from the bottom, put the middle Torx bolt. There are your Torx bolts, by the way. They're all identical. Don't mind this one. That one was already in there, so ignore the silver one. This one, I don't know why, but it was marked with silver, and that's the one for the center. So it's identical, so I don't know why it had a specific marking, but I'll put it back there anyway. But that's the one that's got to go back in first. Raise this up from the bottom. Put this one back in first. That'll hold it in place. Then you can put the other ones in from the top. You can put the other ones in from the top, screw that down, tighten it up, don't over tighten it, don't want to pull apart the work you just did. And then that other piece, the one from the center, slides back up through the bottom of this hole, and then you pop it down. Just pop it down, and it locks here, there, and on these tabs, and those lock right in place. So you can see where it locks into these channels and on those tabs. So that's it. If you have any questions, then comment, and I'll take a look at it and see if I can help you out. But if you're into this, it's not that hard. A lot of people take it in for warranty work. This is 2012. 2012 and 2018. That's not covered under warranty anymore. So I'm doing some stuff by myself, and it's not that hard if you're not afraid to do it. If you got a little bit of do-it-yourself, you can handle this at home. So thanks, and I hope that this helped you.